to think that might not be true.
I'm going to miss him. If he's gone, I'm going to miss him.
Nelson does keep searching because he has some hope.
You know, there have been, in many earthquakes and other situations, people recovered alive 8, 9, 10 days afterwards. And in this site, there are tunnels and perhaps air pockets. It might take a miracle, but miracles have happened.
Ortez is hoping for that miracle, but preparing for the worst. Like hundreds of others, he's given DNA samples, DNA to be matched up with human remains from the explosion site. Those samples arrived at the state crime labs in Albany. Some of the DNA came from hairbrushes, razors, or toothbrushes used by the missing people. Others came from inner cheek swabs of close blood relatives. It's not clear how long the DNA matching process will take. When the lab reports do come out, in many cases, they'll have to take the place of having an actual body.
I think at this point, anything is better than this horrible uncertainty and nothingness that people are going through right now.
Since matching hundreds, if not thousands, of DNA samples will take time, families are left in an emotional limbo.
We try to say, you know, what would be your plan if, for example, you found out today that there was a confirmation that your loved one was deceased? What kind of supports do you have around you? What would you need to help you through this?
That's the fine line Nelson Ortez is walking, hoping for life and preparing for death. Before he did his interview with us, he'd been at hospitals to see if perhaps his brother had been brought in alive. After the interview, he went to the city morgue. Elizabeth Cohen, CNN, New York.
Well, if you're looking for someone missing after the terrorist attacks, do send a photo and a description to us here at CNN. You're invited to go to CNN.com. There you will find complete instructions on what to do. The information you submit, we have to tell you, may be published on CNN.com as part of a list of missing persons, and we might show some of the photos on the air. The email address for you, missing@CNN.com. Very simple, missing@CNN.com. Once again, we urge you to read the full instructions before you send the photos and any information, Colleen.
All right. Well, you saw the explosions at the World Trade Center towers, the extent of the fireballs that erupted there when those planes hit. So for many people who survived last week's attacks, the ordeal didn't end with their escape from those buildings. Dr. Sanjay Gupta reports on the condition of burn victims, and we do want to warn you here that this report does contain some graphic images.
Fireballs in hallways with nowhere to turn, temperatures soaring to 1,000 degrees, and burns worse than you've ever seen before.
All of a sudden, as I'm walking in the hallway, I hear a door explode, and just this big ball of fire just engulfed me. I just froze. I didn't do anything. I just stood there.
Just stood there because he instantaneously sustained burns over 40% of his body when a fireball tore through the 83rd floor of the World Trade Center's Tower 1.
It must be 1,000 degrees or more. It takes about 1 second of temperature at 155 degrees to get a third-degree burn.
I ran into my office and screaming, I'm burnt, there's a bomb.
All of a sudden the door, just flew open, and so I just ran, and with the fire chasing my back, and I fall down.
The fireball on the 73rd floor of Tower 1 then passed over Vasana Mututano. It burned the flesh over her entire back and legs.
I was very fortunate. I was in the back of the elevator. Anybody in front of me, either kill, no leg, no face. It was just disgusting. I tried to help her, but then I couldn't hold on to her. So I tried to do it. But then I couldn't cross all those bodies. Okay.
We found them, some of the last ones out of the World Trade Center.
Because I made out with a nick of time. Within 5 minutes, I think the whole building collapsed. And I think I'm lucky because I think I'm the last one out.
They are alive, but at great cost. They sustained nearly indescribable injuries.
We had a patient with 100% burn, total body, all third-degree burn. What was more shocking was seeing so many with big burns at the same time.
Many of the victims of Tuesday's attack probably didn't know the largest burn center in the country was just down the road.
I never known that there is such a place called burning unit before.
But now they credit Weill Cornell Burn Center and Dr. Roger Yurt with saving their lives. though he regrets the one that he couldn't save.
There's a possibility that a patient with 100% burn could survive, but it's very remote.
That patient
did not survive.
Many of the patients that did survive did so because of remarkable heroism.
Somebody from the building maintenance, I'm sure they came up and they said, we have to evacuate. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get down? You know, all my arms are burnt, my back is burnt, face, and so one of my friends, they're like, when you have to get up, you have to get up. You know, there's nobody here, you have to get up. So I don't know how, I just jumped up and just started running down the stairs, and people were very nice. They saw that I was burned and they let me go in front of them.
Now they consider themselves lucky and grateful.
All the doctors and nurses with international faces around here, they're very kind to me. They don't even know me.
I'm just fortunate to be here right now.
But that luck comes at a price.
I'm very, very, very lucky. But any of my friends who's up in the 7th floor, either they got crushed or on the way down to the stairs, they were made.
Ling Young lost all of her coworkers that day except for one, her best friend. Together they escaped, though they encountered separate fires along the way and made it to ground just in time.
She said, I can't breathe, I gotta get the hell out of here. And they said, no, we gotta wait for one more. She said, if you don't let me get out of here, I'm not gonna be able to make it. Finally, the EMS said, okay, let's go. After we turned around the corner, the whole building collapsed on us.
Surviving the attack took minutes. Surviving their burns may take months, but their traumatic memories will last a lifetime. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, New York.
Well, hope, a word that obviously means a lot to those people and to people in New York as well, the rest of the world in the aftermath of these attacks. Workers in Lower Manhattan dig on at this hour, hopeful of finding someone still alive under all that debris. Mayor Rudy Giuliani says more than 4,900 people still missing. Expectations are high, too, ahead of the opening of the New York Stock Exchange. Major U.S. markets open for business less than 6 hours from now. Officials say they want to send a message that major institutions are strong enough to overcome any terrorist attack. Michael?
Thanks, Colleen. Well, as you would expect, Americans who need to travel have had to adjust quickly to a radically altered set of priorities, as you would imagine. As Lisa Leiter now reports, even the normally impatient business traveller, however, is not complaining.
Please proceed now to the pickup portion. Chicago's Union Station is jam-packed this Sunday afternoon. Amtrak ticket sales have surged 50% since Tuesday, especially for long-distance trains, like the one this medical researcher took from Boston to Chicago, en route home to Albuquerque, New Mexico.
It was loaded. I think every seat was taken.
Greyhound also reports a 50% jump in sales, and in some cities near airports, business has tripled or quadrupled. Many business travelers are avoiding the airports, whether it's because they're afraid to fly, their flights are canceled, or they just want to avoid crowds and delays. But there was no crowd at this United ticket counter.
I came to the airport early because they said, be here 2 hours early, and I don't know, at least for me, it took me about 5 minutes to check in, so I've got another hour and 40 minutes before my flight.
You'd never know this was Chicago's O'Hare Airport, one of the nation's busiest. There is very little traffic, plenty of parking, and the check-in lines are surprisingly short. Hoping for better odds at catching a flight home to Los Angeles, this man drove 13 and a half hours from Atlanta.
I'd reserved a car for Monday morning and was planning to drive home to get home. But I'm glad I'm going to potentially get out today because it's my wife's birthday.
Business travelers are usually impatient, accustomed to speedy check-ins and last-minute flying. Now there is a different attitude about inconvenience.
I really think it's a small price to pay for being safe, and we'll accept that.
Lisa Leiter, CNN Financial News, Chicago.
And as Lisa points out, most airports in the United States are operating, though many airlines have cut back their schedules quite a bit. For more on what travelers might be able to expect, we're joined by Jenny Harrison at the CNN International Weather Center. Jenny?
Colleen, yes, well, indeed, as you've just said, indeed, most airports are now open across the US, with the exception, however, of Washington Reagan National Airport. That does remain closed. No news yet as to when that is expected to reopen. And indeed, all US carriers are now permitted to fly domestic routes, but also to international destinations. And for international flights, again, international carriers may now fly to the United States, but that is dependent upon meeting the FAA's guidelines and also point of origin. Now, US carriers also, again, flying from international points may enter, but again, that is dependent on the point of origin. Now, if you'd like more information about what is going on obviously a very regular basis and up-to-date basis, then this is a very good website for you to log on to, www.faa.gov. And on that site, you'll find a comprehensive list of all the airports within the US that are indeed open, and obviously it's updated regularly, and also some very good answers to some much asked questions. For example, have you got the right ticket? How long you do have to check in? That sort of information. Now, obviously, the weather also affects travel, and just to say, through Monday, chance of thunderstorms along this frontal system, and that does mean the potential for weather delays for Dallas, Fort Worth, Chicago, Denver and Phoenix. Back to you, Colleen.
Okay, Jenny, thanks very much for that update. Well, amid the death and destruction in New York, some new lives are being celebrated as well, and we want to bring that to you now. Since Tuesday's attacks on the World Trade Center, dozens of babies have been born in New York City, and to many, that's a big reason for optimism. The story now from CNN's Beth Nissen.
The outside walls of New York University Medical Center in Manhattan are papered with the names, descriptions, and photos of the missing. Many shown with their children, carrying them, feeding them, holding them in their first days in this world. Yet at the end of a week when thousands of lives ended, there is this small comfort, knowing that other lives have begun. Meet Nora Rose Draper, born September 15th, one of 56 babies born here since Tuesday morning.
I've just felt so good since she's been here for the first time since that day.
That day, the day the World Trade Center was attacked. The labor nurses here logged an unusually high number of births Tuesday.
22.
22 babies in 24 hours. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah, that's a lot.
Nurses say high stress often triggers labor. It did for Lorraine Tobias. She watched the horror unfold on television all last week until Friday night.
Like it just hit me. But then that night I went into, my water broke and she came.
Came 3 weeks early.
I think she just decided that it was, people needed some good news.
Little Max Edelstein's safe arrival was good news for his parents, too. Yet they both admit they are apprehensive.
It was sort of overwhelming, the idea that there's so much death and destruction going on, and here we were bringing a new life into the world, and what that world would be for this child.
Yeah, we even tried to call right away to call our congresspeople to ask them, to push for justice rather than revenge. We want peace. We don't want more killing.
His name is Jaden Francisco Muniz, and I had him today at 8:06 a.m.
Tina Muniz is praying for peace especially hard. Little Jaden's father doesn't yet know his son has been born. Tina's husband is in the U.S. Navy, serving aboard a submarine that is somewhere in the world.
I have no way of getting in contact with him probably for a month and a half.
The past 6 days have been terribly hard for Tina. First the attack, now the talk of war.
Him being in the world now with this going on, it's you don't even want to think about it. Hopefully bringing this life into the world is making those around me more joyful.
All of these new parents and the labor-weary nurses are at heart optimistic.
It's hope. The children are our hope. And that's a new generation that we're bringing into the world. And they're our hope.
Alex's mother thought we should call her Hope because when she was born.
They didn't name her Hope, although for her parents she does represent it.
She's being born into the world, but she's also coming into the world. She'll make it better.
I think it's still a good world. I just think we have to believe that.
Maybe we do. Beth Nissen, CNN, New York.
Kick him back.
And on that happy note, for a change, that gets us to the end of this hour, but we will be back.
We will. We'll see you in a moment.
the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, the day is said to begin and end at the same time. As mighty as the towers were, they did not represent will be the same light that she holds in the harbor and is open to the world. Make
Jesus.